Okay, we're in the next episode, so let's get into it. How is everyone doing today, guys? My name is Goats, and if you guys are watching these in order, you know that I was just on the 3 armies for Amphibia. Now we're on the last 11-minute segment of the show's run. Man, I mean, for me, I've said it a few times. I only started watching Amphibia March 2021, so a little over a year ago. But to be here now, it's still like one heck of a journey to actually see these episodes, at least in season 3, seeing these episodes. Sorry, I got a little distracted by something, but seeing these episodes aired, seeing these episodes like live on either TV or Hulu, depending on which one I have access to. Sorry, it's just a bit distracting over there. So this episode, yeah, it's episode 56B of the series, or episode 16B of season 3, the beginning of the end. Yeah, ain't that the truth? And it pretty much picks up right where the 3 armies left off, and that being, we're going. It's like we have the idea, we have the plan, we just gotta execute it. We gotta go in, we gotta attack, we gotta fight, we gotta get the Calamity Box, we gotta stop Andreas. And it's like, I mean, it's not gonna go well, and because it's like it has to. It's like if in Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's like if the day of Black Sun was right before Sildren's Comet, which would be one of the weirdest coincidences to ever happen. Just like you have a solar eclipse right before a comet comes by. That would have been amazing. But yeah, so it's like basically what happened in that kind of is what happens here, and that is you have the attack, and it's a really fun battle sequence on the show, right outside of Newtopia. You have the frogs, the newts, and the toads. You have the cat moths. You have the Ohms coming into the fight. You even have the Moss Man come in. I love that part where he saves Wally in the battle. It's so cool. But yeah, no, it's like you have all the characters from previous episodes coming in, battling it out, just going at it, just slaying these robots. And it's a pretty lopsided battle, in all honesty. Like, you think all these robots are gonna annihilate them? Nope. It's just an absolute slaughter by the frogs, newts, and toads. I even love Andreas just being like, "Whoa, look at that. We see. It seems that these frogs, newts, and toads want a final stand, do they?" Well, they will. Oh, wow, that is a big army. It's like, well, I mean, he doesn't say that all in one row, but it's in one shot. But it's like just him throughout this episode being like, "Oh, wow, this might actually be. I might actually have to go down there." And he does, like, I love when he does, like, he comes down, he has his sword, he comes in with this flaming sword, and of course he has to show off. Like, he literally jumps from high up in Newtopia, lands on the ground, he pulls out his fire sword and just like rolls it. It's just like, and he's like, "Don't stop because I'm here." He just activates it, and it's like, and of course there's like one shot where it's perfectly angled like a Sauron from Lord of the Rings when he showed up at the beginning of the Fellowship. Speaking of all that, let me go back to the fact that that's not even how the episode starts. The episode starts with a flashback with Marcy, Sasha, and Anne, and that it's a sleepover at Anne's house. Marcy is watching or is showing Anne and Sasha her favorite movie, and that's War of the Warlocks, and it's at a battle scene, and it's like, it's honestly, even though it's called War of the Warlocks, which I think is just, of course, like a parody of War of the Worlds, it's very Lord of the Rings in terms of the setting. It's like you got the Mordor like setting. You even have like an Eye of Sauron like parody in the background. So it's like you have the good guys, you have the bad guys, like you got all that set up. And it's like I love Marcy's walking them through what's going on, and Anne is just has no clue what's going on while Sasha's just texting, and she's like, ooh, that's interesting. But then, of course, as Marcy's going through and telling him what's gonna happen, Sasha's like, whoa, spoiler alert! And then Marcy's like, oh, sorry. And Sasha's like, no, I don't care. And it's like, the way she said, I don't care, it's like she is not really implying she doesn't care about the spoilers, it's that she doesn't care about the actual movie. And it's like, for Marcy, she just takes that as base value and just, like, ignores it. Because, yeah, it really, that whole scene, it shows what Marcy, Marcy herself as, like, what she was prior to, being teleported to Amphibia, but also what kind of this friendship that she had with Sasha and Anne. It's like, it's clear that, I mean, Anne, of course, cares about Sasha and Marcy, but it was interesting to see Marcy kind of having this relationship with Anne and Sasha, because, like, Marcy, she always, I mean, it's clear that Anne doesn't get everything that Marcy's into. She doesn't get into the video games. She isn't as smart as Marcy. She isn't into all this fantasy stuff. So for Marcy to see Anne and Sasha kind of not into it as her, kind of makes her feel bad. Like, there's this one scene, in the flashback, she's getting ready to watch the final battle sequence of the film. She turns around, Anne and Sasha are asleep. It's like, for her, she has that second of just being, like, sad, and just, obviously it's clear that she wishes that she can share this experience with them and watching it with them, but of course, like, they're asleep, so she doesn't, so she just, she just turns to the screen and just smiles, like, because she knows, like, if there's one thing she can be happy about, it's, like, actually watching the movie. But it's clear that she, going back to that True Colors line, just being like, her being alone, it's like, it's just, I mean, man, it really is intriguing to look at these three characters and seeing what each of them been through in terms of, like, this show, and just, like, seeing the highs of their character arcs and seeing, like, the lows of their character arcs, because it's like, because at points in time you can really see them as just, like, monsters. It's like, I mean, Sasha, of course, was kind of a monster. Marcy, for what she did for what she did to Anne and Sasha, in a way, is kind of a very messed up, dark thing. And then even Anne is definitely not a perfect person, definitely not perfect either. She's mucked up a lot throughout the show. It's just nothing at the level of Sasha and Marcy, but of course, like, that was what could happen. But yeah, so that's how the episode starts. And then we get the battle. Then we get the fight with Andreas and the robot army. And while all that's going on, Anne, Sasha, Hop, Sprig, Polly, Grime, and Frobo, or RC Frobo, they sneak in. They sneak into the castle to try and find the music box. But of course, even with that going on, Sasha is like, Anne, we gotta talk about Marcy. And of course, Anne's like, yeah, I'm thinking about that too. And Sasha's like, she sent us here. She trapped us here. We gotta. It's like, what? And Anne's like, and Anne, of course, is like, well, to be fair, we kind of led her to that, and it's like Sasha having that realized, just being like, yeah, in a way, because they didn't really get into her interest, because they kind of ignored her here and there, and most importantly, because they weren't able to actually be there for her. And of course, to top it all off, her fear of moving away and losing Anne and Sasha, all of that, of course, is like, it's clear that not every, they're not, it's like, I mean, again, and they're kids, granted, if you thought something would teleport you and your friends to a magical new world, yeah, that's a bit far, but it's like, they're kids and they're gonna make mistakes. I mean, heck, we still make mistakes when we're in, I don't know, like when we're in our middle-aged part. I mean, okay, I'm 21, so I mean, I definitely make mistakes at 21. But it's clear that, Anne is willing to try and forgive Marcy, and it's like, I love that she looks over at Hop Hop, and like, you know that even though I wish we got a few more episodes with Hop Hop and Ant slowly getting that like forgiveness phase through, you know, it's like, after the rain and then First Temple were pretty much the 2 episodes where like that tension was there, but then after that it's like wasn't really there. It's like, but I like that Anne looks over at Hop Hop and is like, after what he did, she was able to forgive him for that. So it's like, and of course, like what happened with Sasha, it's like, Anne's like, it's forgiveness isn't easy. I know that, but it's like, if you're willing to forgive them, you can see where it leads to. It's like, so it's like, yeah, being able to forgive Marcy for doing that, it's like, you got to be able to. And so for Sasha, it's like, okay, maybe I can try. And so that's kind of, I'm glad they acknowledged it. It's like, part of me was like, I think because of the fact that they couldn't really address all the big things, they had to really pick out the ones they needed to. And of course, in this case, being able to forgive Marcy for what she did, that's definitely a big one. So it's like, yeah, I know people were talking about like, how come they're not traumatized about what happened to Marcy? How come the fact that she was, why didn't they talk about Anne being in denial that Marcy was actually not dead? And it's like, or like all that. And I'm like thinking, okay, one, it's a kid's show, it's Disney, so I feel like Disney was like, you don't want to do that. 2, they were short. They were short on time. They were shortened a few episodes because of 2020. So it's like they had to take their liberties. And again, because it's Disney, because it's a kid's show, they maybe allowed some things, but they're probably not allowed a lot everything. And it's like, even then, they had their thing with True Colors, with that being pulled for a few weeks because they had to give the warning about these final scenes may not be suitable for young children. It's like, okay, but at least they acknowledge this. And like, if they acknowledge any of this, then I would be like, okay, what the heck? I'm glad there's acknowledging a few things. So being like, see, it's like being like this. Of course, it's like, what Marcy did. It's obviously not talking about what happened to Marcy with the whole stab through the back thing, but yeah, okay, you know what? It's not a can of worms I want to open up right now. So even though I technically opened it up right now, let's talk about this episode. So with the group going through the castle, finding the music box, is like they have seemingly one task to get through, and that's fighting Olivia and Union, who of course we haven't seen since their named episode, and unfortunately they have mind-controlled collars on them, and it's a pretty ridiculous, it's a pretty fun fight to see the two of them working so well off each other. Like, as Anne and Sasha point out, they're practically synchronized with each other, and then that gives Sasha and Anne an idea, and that them doing like, hey Sasha, remember that synchronized dance we once did? And it's like, oh yeah, and that's exactly what they do. They do a synchronized dance, which topples Olivia and Union's synchronized choreography in terms of a fight. So they destroy the collars, they free them, and it's like, okay, we can do this. We just gotta go fight. We just gotta go save Sasha. We just gotta go get the music box and save Marcy. But then Union and Olivia are like, wait. Marcy's not the same as you think. And it's like, and Sasha's like, yeah, well, neither are we. So let's go see. And it's like, nope. Yeah, so they go in and big shock, Darcy was waiting for them. You know, it's like they had this fake music box, and Anne of course grabs it, but it's a hologram, so it's like, wait, what? And then they get captured, and then Darcy's just like, oh, bravo, phenomenal plan, Ward the Warlocks? Oh, that's such a clever idea. But unfortunately, of course I saw that coming. So it's like, Darcy, of course, is just like, and it's like, wait, Marcy? What happened? And it's like, oh, we're not Marcy. We're a collection of Amphibia's greatest minds and we needed a vessel. And of course, it's just like, Anne and Sasha are just like, what did you do to Marcy? And of course, Sasha's just like, give me back my friend right now, or I'm going to rip that thing off your head. And then Darcy just throws this right back at her. Throws this at her. It's just like, oh, your friend? Judging by the memories I have here, that doesn't seem to make sense. It's like, you don't really seem to be friends. And it's like, Yeah, trust me. That's that fact of being like really putting into question what does it truly mean to be a friend. So for Sasha to have that, like, I mean, yeah, we know in terms of like Sasha, her past, her what she's gone through. It's like, yeah, she's definitely made mistakes. So for her to have that realization, it's like, yeah, she technically was she ever really a friend for Marcy, like, or was she just someone that Marcy could talk to? It's like there's definitely a difference between that. It's like friends. There's a lot to them when it comes to friends. They're like. So for Sasha to have that moment, just being like Darcy telling her that maybe you and Marcy are definitely not friends, and it's like, ooh. And then of course for Anne, it's like Darcy's like, oh, Anne Boonshoy, dumb as a rock, and I'm like, dang, okay. I'm like, yeah, Anne's probably not the sharpest tool in the shed or the brightest bulb, but it's like she still has her moments. It's like. And then it's like, Darcy, of course, is just like, who cares? You two are just a thorn in my side. So it's like, and then, of course, it's like, after she captures them, then they reveal to the rebellion that they have their leaders. So it's like, so of course, the armies surrender and they retreat because they're like, there's nothing they can really do. It's all on our group now, which I guess makes sense. It's like, who else would it be on? And so. And so Anne in the group, they're pretty much captured by Darcy. Andreas comes back, and Darcy's like, well, time to finish what you couldn't do, Andreas. I'm gonna kill Anne Boonshoy. And it's like, oh, yeah, that whole shtick. And of course, is like, wait. If I still have a connection to the music box, to the stone, with my calamity powers, what would happen if you killed me? Maybe the powers go away. Maybe the powers are just taken from existence if you kill me. So how can you be so sure? And so I love that it stumps Darcy. Like Darcy, and then like Andy's like, do you think the core didn't actually go through and think about that? And Darcy's like, quiet, Andreas. And then just like I completely forgot to mention throughout the castle, because Darcy wants to be able to move around. It's like she has all of these cores, all these pipelines just connecting to her, and it's just like, well, I mean, it's still just the one, but it's like you have all of these other wires throughout the castle, and they all have eyes. So then when Darcy closes her eyes, all of those eyes close, and it's like, it's what's illuminating the room. So I love how it goes dark when that happens, and then Darcy opens her eyes and it's being like, interesting. We can't seem to come to an agreement. And it's like, so basically, Darcy gets stumped by that question, and Anne's like, wait, did I just outsmart you? And Darcy's like, nope, you just delayed your demise, and so you could witness your world destroyed. And I'm like, whoop. So, a part of me was wondering if they were gonna leave the episode with the portal opening up and then them going to it. But no, they go a step further. They open the portal up, and of course all of Newtopia goes through, and then we get to see what happens on the other side. We see that in LA, it's like, at first they think it's an earthquake. I love that. It's like, duck and cover, this is gonna be the biggest one. And I'm like, anyone who, of course, knows California, it's like, knows that a lot of earthquakes happen in California, so that's a nice little, like little tidbit there, just being like, yeah, it's like they think it's an earthquake, but it's like, no, it's actually all of this coming through, and that's where the episode ends. And it's like, okay, because again, we know it's like All In is gonna be, I think for what they said, it's like over 40 minutes long, so it's gonna be like, in terms of on TV, it's gonna be an hour long if I had to take a guess. And then of course we have The Hardest Thing, which will be the series finale, and it's like, oh geez, and oh man, I mean, yeah, this show was, it really, in terms of Amphibia, this really felt like a journey, because you're going to for everywhere they've been, everything they've done, everything they have gone through, their character arcs, everything, it really does feel like this this long journey, and we are just 2 episodes away from that end. Whew. And of course, the one thing I'm intrigued about is, since we are now in Earth, are we not going to be able to see the rest of the army, or is the 3 armies from Amphibia not going to be seen again? Because I feel like we did get a lot of moments with the army in this episode. Like, I mean, like I said, with the toads, the newts, the frogs. I mean, heck, even Jeremy and Apothecary Gary got a moment. Like, he was able to hijack one of the centipedes with his own mushrooms, which of course caused like chaos. And then, like I said, you had the Ohms, you had the moths, you had all of these creatures, and it's like, if we don't see him again after this, I'll be a little bit but I mean, at the same time, it's like, we have our core group here. And I imagine now that we're on Earth, we're going to bring the other people into it. Like, maybe since the maybe since Mr. and Mrs. Boonchoy actually got up in Mr. X's face about what could happen, maybe Mr. X will be bringing the FBI in, and maybe that'll be a cool final battle. But it's like, I mean, we have 2 episodes to think about this. I mean, it's like, in terms of like how much is there, this is basically like, it's basically, I think the best way to sum it up is, yeah, it's kind of like with All In and the hardest thing, it's like if it's like a Sozin's Comet or a Weird Mageddon, it's like if you added more to their part 3s of those 4-part episodes, this is basically our extended part 3, or part 2 in this case, because, you know, it's like it's technically a 3-parter with this episode, All In, and then the hardest thing. So this part 2 is kind of acting as like a super long middle part, which of course makes sense because, like, Matt Rowley, he loves his 3. He like he says, he prefers the 3-act structure. So like this was Act 1 of the finale, the beginning of the end. Act 2 is gonna be All In, and then Act 3 is gonna be the hardest thing. So it's like, oh boy. Yeah. Man, I'm lost for words, man. It's just, we're here and 2 episodes left. So I guess with all that said, that's the end of the video. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you liked it, leave a like. If you want to leave a comment, leave a comment. And if you want to subscribe, subscribe. You don't have to. I'm just saying. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next video.